Welcome to another episode of the All Tens Podcast. I'm your co-host, Josh West, as always, with Clay Harris. And Clay, today we're being joined by a special guest. He's a founder, CEO, and senior executive with over 25 years of experience with multiple exits and transactions within payments and fintech software. He's known for taking low-growth organizations to high double-digit growth year over year. He's taken multiple startups to over $100 million in revenue. Currently the chief revenue officer at Fortis and founder and CEO at SIXPAC. Welcome to the pod, Ron Dichter. Ron, thanks for joining us.
Josh, Clay, thanks for having me. It's really an honor to be on here, and you make me sound way more impressive than I am. So for your listeners out there, I appreciate that, but far less impressive, I think, in person.
I think Ron's downplaying a little bit for our listeners. Ron's had a very impressive career. Talk to us a little bit about currently where you're at Fortis and SIXPAC.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting. I got to Fortis through another company that I had sold to them back in 2020. And I agreed to come on to help grow the sales. And in that time, we grew it from, I think we were a $20 million organization. And in my 4 years there, just shy of 200 million. And my last day, I don't know when this will air, but my last official day as an employee is only 2 days away from today. So I'm actually looking forward to it and wishing them all the best. They had a sale to private equity. And as part of that, I told them I'm not sticking around for the next chapter. And I am moving on now into my new business, which is a software platform, as you mentioned, called SIXPAC, which I'm very excited about. And it allows me to kind of get back into startup mode once again, which is really just a fun and scary and exciting time. So that's kind of what's been happening lately.
He says not that impressive, and then he drops like 200 million, just casually dropping the 9 figures.
Exactly.
Ron, I've known you for 20 years, and when we first met each other, I feel like it was you and a few other people scrapping together a payment processing company. Give us the Cliff Notes version of the journey you've been on, not just the ending.
Yeah. So one of my biggest faults and biggest strengths is that I'm completely unemployable. Nobody would want to hire me. And so I have to be able to figure out how to do things on my own. And I was a junior in college and trying to scrap along and make some money so I could pay for my tuition because my parents weren't paying for it. And I didn't want to graduate with a mountain of debt. And so I got a job at this company selling credit card terminals to new businesses. And I fell in love with it. It was exciting. It was great. It was so easy. I was really good at it. But the guy, that industry is just kind of filled with a bunch of snake oil salesmen. And I didn't really trust, a lot of the people that I was working with. And so I wanted to go out and figure out how to do something on my own, which, I was like, 20 years old at the time, and found a company that was willing to take a shot at me, let them become a reseller in a geographic area, and kind of built that up and scrapped that together to be able to, like when this again, I don't want to this come off the wrong way. But so when I started that, I think shortly after you and I met, I was just starting this company. I think I had 3 people in a room with folding tables and chairs. And, we didn't have a computer. We had phones with index cards that we call on. And by the time I graduated college 2 years later, I had 100 employees and 8 offices on that same company. And so, I went right out of college into that, and I was finishing college while doing that. And I think that really helped set the trajectory of everything that followed from there.
That's pretty cool. That's a movie.
Yeah, that's a great story. Ron, along those lines, certainly a lot of the clients that Clay and I work with and a lot of our listeners find themselves frustrated with sales, and they want growth, but they're not necessarily great at it. And so for our listeners out there that sometimes are just so frustrated, they're ready to just throw up their hands and say, like, I don't know, I've tried everything, it's not working. What would you tell those people? Like, where should they start if they really want to accelerate their sales programs?
Man, if I had a nickel for every time someone told me that they don't like selling or they're struggling with sales, like I'd be way better off than I am. Okay, so first off, stop selling. That's the number one thing. Like, stop selling. People don't like to be sold. Businesses don't like to be sold, but everybody likes to buy something, and they like to buy things because they're informed and they understand what you're selling. Stop selling and start just articulating value and showcasing what you can do, and do it in a more subtle, passive way. You can be a very aggressive salesperson and not come across as a salesy person. And I think people get so fixated on like I got to have the Tommy Hopkins sizzle close, or I got to do the, this technique that I learned at this seminar. And like all that stuff is great, but in practical application, stop selling. Just start being authentic.
Dig into that? Give me some examples and counterexamples of things that you've encountered in your career.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll tell you about something I was doing right before this podcast. Like I was literally on a demo for SIXPAC, which is a software platform. And it was a lady that one of my reps had called, and he asked me last night, he's like, hey, you got to be honest, this lady's like crazy. She's going to eat me up, because she was so mad that we keep calling her. She's like, fine, I'll just have a demo just to shut you guys up. And we ended up getting this demo, and I was telling her, I'm like, look, like, I went through all the benefits, showed her what it was. She liked all that. I said, look, like I could be like any other salesperson here and tell you that you should sign up now, and you can, get this, free, toaster or whatever I want to give you, as kind of a gift. But like, look, like I don't have time for that. I have another demo I need to do. The platform speaks for itself. So if you want to do it, great. Here's the, here's how we get going. If not, no worries. We can part as friends. We can move on. And what happens is, you could say that is the takeaway, which is a tactic, but I never even got to that point. I didn't even give him a chance to buy. And then when I said to that, she's like, oh, hold on. She's like, well, like how long does it take to get set up? I said, listen, I don't have time to do it right now. I've got to go do a podcast, but I tell you what, I'll bring my sales rep on that you didn't want to talk to initially, and I'll let them finish it up for you. And he just gave me a thumbs up like 5 minutes ago that he got the deal signed. So I think people get so fixated that they have to actually sell and like come up with these closing techniques, but like you really don't have to do that. You just have to be confident.
Okay,
confident. Go ahead.
No, it's when you were saying that, I was envisioning what's the movie where they're on the phone and what do they yell to the floor?
Well, Boiler Room, right?
Yeah. What does he yell when he has somebody else?
Rico.
All right. So I was just thinking that was happening there. So let me ask you this. So 100%, I get it. That authenticity, that confidence, that kind of, listen, I think I'm going to provide you great service. And if you want to, I would love to help you with it. And if not, it's all good. That's some real confidence that comes with a lot of reps, and it comes with a lot of experience. Let me ask the question a little bit differently. For our clients who are like founding entrepreneurs who probably have that, what my daughters would call the riz to walk into the room, right, and have the confidence, right? But they want to do that next thing, which is start building a team. Give us some tidbits there on like kind of taking that and putting it into process, into something that's repeatable outside of just your head.
Yeah. So one of my older companies was a company called Elliott Management Group that I had, and I had 28 offices with about 350 salespeople, employees. And, so they were, really fragmented and spread out throughout those offices. And so I had to figure out how to do exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do I go from one office to two offices and be able to take what we just talked about and be able to, convey that message? And again, it really comes back to the right kind of training, the right kind of information, the right kind of, coaching with your team. And, I always say your sales processes are only as good as the sales manager that you have selling it. And they obviously need to buy into it. But I think kind of zooming out a little bit, which is I think really where your head is going here, is like, how do you get the culture of the organization to think like sales? Because I have a mantra that I've applied in every business I've ever been, which is everyone sells. I don't care if you're the receptionist answering the desk. I don't care if you're the support person taking a support call. Everyone's job is to turn over a rock and find out if there's something squiggling around underneath to go get another sale. And if you start thinking about things in a sales first culture, it really helps set the tone for the entire organization to be thinking about where's the opportunity? Where is the opportunity? And again, it's not a matter of like selling somebody on something. The weird, connotation people have is like car sales. You go in, you buy a car, you get it home, and the wheels fall off in the garage, and you got sold something, and you're pissed about it. Like in today's, and I assume most of your clients are B2B type clients. If you're a B2B customer, it's long-term relationship, right? You're not selling something and then gone. Like it doesn't work like that. You're selling something, and that's probably just where the actual support and service of whatever you sold begins. So you can't deliver something, on the sale, because you have to deliver it on the back end. And so I think if you start thinking about things and start, presenting the right type of, framework to your team, everyone starts thinking about like, my job is to find the opportunity. My job is to articulate benefits. My job is to help, describe why it's a value to do business with us, because if that's not in the culture, it's very hard, because then you create that ops sales conflict that happens if you don't create that culture. So I'm a sales first guy, and I always think everyone sells in an organization.
Ron, as you've talked, there's a lot that you've shared with us that I think is timeless. But throughout your career, on the other side of that, what have you seen over the past 20, 25 years that's changed some things in sales?
Yeah. So people, and this is by no means pointed at the younger generation, but people don't know how to talk anymore. And it's amazing to me how much people lean on emails, text messages, and automation when the art of just actually talking is so lost. Like, people are uncomfortable. And what's really interesting now, with everything being video calls, where people are having to have that, face-to-face interaction, like, it's even more important, because, in the past, you'd be like, you could look away from somebody, you could do, all the body language and mannerisms don't matter. But in video calls, especially if you're selling through a medium like this, like, it is paramount that you're aware of, like, what's coming out of your mouth, the way your body's positioned, the way your body language is saying. And nobody teaches that anymore. Like, literally, youth thinks that, I don't mean youth, like, both my kids are in college, and one of them's 20, and he talks like he texts. And I'm like, dude, nobody taught, like, I don't even know what words you're saying here. Like, what is this, an articulate sentence? Like, and so I think that if people spend a little bit more time on the fundamentals of just language and understanding the power of words, and I don't want to say go take a Shakespeare class, but just understanding, like, the power of those words and the way you convey it in your body language around it, like, those are things that should be taught that aren't anymore, that I think has changed dramatically. And the people who figure that out, you see it every day. Like, look at the influencers. They go online and have tons of success, influencing. Like, they learn the art of talking, right? They learn the art of being able to use themselves to sell. And I think that's something that's not taught, that really needs to be, back in focus. And obviously tech has also changed us. I mean, don't even get me started on AI and, like, how that's changed things. But, like, there has been a ton of advent in tech in the last, 3 years, let alone the last 10 years.
Any at SIXPAC, I want to ask you more about what that is, but at SIXPAC, are there any tools that you're loving right now that are helping enable sales? Or, I'm with you, pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone.
Yeah. So there's really two strategies that I have. One is traditional, like, literally pick up the phone. I have a sales team. They'll send out an email, they'll follow up with a phone call, and they'll do a social media, post. They'll connect with them on LinkedIn, like all the traditional stuff that you would want to think about. Like, I have a team that does that. I have another team that I launched it like a month ago, where it's solely based on AI. And it started out using, so we have I don't know how technical everyone, that's listening is, but, we basically built out through OpenAI and Telnex and Vappy and a bunch of different tools we, cobbled together. What started out is just, we need one of the receptionists to answer the phone, and then be able to answer and, listen in and be able to send them to the right direction. And that went really well. And they're like, well, what if we proactively called customers and, people who, were trying to schedule installs or demos, and we reached out to them, and that started to go well. And we just started last week testing out outbound calling, where we're using actually AI to make outbound calls to schedule demos, which is a little bit rocky right now. But, I've learned a ton about, like, how to change inflection on AI, how to change tempo, how to add, like, ums in there so it sounds like a human, and being able to really, because the problem with AI right now is that people make it too polished and it sounds like a robot. So if you start adding, weird awkwardness to it, then it sounds like an actual human doing weird awkwardness to it. So it's been awesome testing it out. But again, that's why I have two strategies. One that's traditional, which I stand behind, but the AI one's very compelling to me.
Interesting. The thing that before we wrap up here, this has been we love nuggets around here at the All Tens podcast, just nugget after nugget. Give us the commercial on SIXPAC, and tell us who should be talking to you or your team to be a client.
Yeah, thanks for asking me that. So SIXPAC is a business and payment software platform. It started out helping the fitness community, gyms, trainers, yoga studios, things like that. We've since expanded. We just passed 900 clients, that are using the platform now. We have everything from attorneys and doctors' offices down through to retail stores that use our retail point of sale. So really any SMB business that has a need to be able to take integrated payments inside of a platform. It's kind of like a light version of an ERP system, as well as a point of sale coming together as one. So really anybody in that environment, we have an amazing product from invoicing to scheduling to recurring billing and a ton of other stuff.
Cool. How do they find you on the internet?
Yeah. So easiest way is go to SIXPAC. That's SIXPAC.com. And we'll have tons of call to actions on there for you to get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you. And we'll actually put a person on if you reach out. You just tell them you're part of the All Tens. We won't let you talk to our AI. We'll let you talk to our humans.
That's what they tell you, but then you'll never know. You'll just never know. Unless they just get stuck on an loop. Right. Anyway. Well, cool. Joshy, what else we got before we wrap it up here?
Well, I think Ron has hit him with several nuggets already, but I'll give the last word to Ron. Anything else for our listeners in terms of, getting your sales going?
Yeah, I would say, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, stop selling, and let people buy. But most importantly, get out of your own way. Stop being afraid. Like you are your own worst obstacle. And you just need to stop being so concerned about yourself. Nobody cares. Be outward focused. Worry about the people that are hearing what you're saying as opposed to what you think you're saying.
That's awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the All Tens podcast. Big, huge thanks to Ron Dichter for joining us. Rock star, even if he doesn't want to toot his own horn. We'll do some horn tooting over here for him. Ron's been awesome to have you. Josh, as always, thanks for being my ride or die on this. And thanks to the listeners for listening. We're always happy for you to comment, rate, send feedback, ideas for future shows, future guests. And until next time, we'll see you around. Bye, guys.
Bye.